On to the nerdy news.
Nerdy news.
All right, so episode
Lord,
2, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh,
man,
man, okay. We gonna wrap. We gonna wrap. Okay,
yeah,
Falcon and the
rap.
Winter Soldier, right? So
All
episode
right.
1 for those that spoiler alert. I'm going too fast.
Spoiler: if you ain't seen an episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you do not need to continue with this
Nope.
podcast.
Nope.
Okay, Deonte,
Nope.
take it away one more time. Tell him one more time before you say anything.
Spoiler alert. All right. So everybody's gone that didn't listen to the episode. Now everybody that's here, listen to me. This show is incredible already, 2 episodes in, because they're doing something that the MCU has never done before. I mean, they did it with WandaVision, of course, with everything they did, but this show is already so relatable. So freaking relatable, man. I'll start with episode 1 a little bit, and then we'll just wrap back and forth. So this show, if you don't know, is set 6 months after the events of Avengers Endgame. And as you know, at the end of the movie, Steve Rogers gives the shield to Falcon. Sam Wilson. Sorry, his name slipped me. And so episode 1 picks up right kind of maybe a few days after that, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
So
I'd assume the same thing.
Right. So they're at the museum honoring Steve Rogers for everything he's done for the country. They didn't say whether he was dead or not. Notice they just said he's gone. But Sam decides that he's not worthy enough to be Captain America. Steve Rogers is Captain America. He's not Captain America. He gives the shield over to the government, and they're gonna. Well, we assume that they put the shield in a museum.
Right. That's the assumption.
Right. That's the assumption.
But it appears we've been hoodwinked.
We've been hoodwinked. We'll get to that.
Tricked.
We'll get to that. It dives into a lot of character building. We switch to Bucky, and he is talking to a therapist about everything that he's gone through in his life, and the therapist that seems to be government issues. I'm assuming like the government gave him this therapist to.
It's part of his plea deal,
right? Part of his plea deal with the Sokovia Accords. Right, the president pardoned him with everything for saving the universe. I'm assuming with Endgame. I think it's really interesting how, and you can do this in a show rather than a movie. You could dive more into the characters because it's episodic, but diving into who he was, like there was an interesting line, Dane, and I wonder if you remember from episode 1 where Bucky had said he had spent the only time he spent not fighting in a war when he was in Wakanda for a little time. Other than that, he's always been fighting, whether he was like under Hydra control or not. He's always been fighting, and so I was like, man, that is true. So like he's finally not fighting, but at the same time, he doesn't know what to do.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know what civilian life is like. He has no idea. There's a lot of parallels between what we see right now, what we've been seeing for the longest is when our troops are guys who have, blood, sweat, and tear overseas to protect the freedoms that we hold dear to our hearts. When they come back here, they're still trying to assimilate. They're trying to get back into some sort of normalcy. And I'd imagine, or no, I can't imagine how complicated that is. And we're seeing Marvel trying to show us that this man trying to transition back into civilian life, and he's still having to deal with those ghosts in the closet. And the one thing that stuck with me is it sucks because this man was literally woken up, brainwashed, and sent to go kill. And he's literally sitting in the passenger seat of assassination after assassination after assassination. At some point in time, that takes the toll on your psyche. And right after he's done with his mission, he comes back and they put him right back on ice. So it's like
literally a weapon.
For decades and decades and decades, he's told this is what you're here for. And now at the drop of a dime, he doesn't have that luxury of being, brainwashed. Well, I wouldn't say it's a luxury. He has the luxury of not being brainwashed anymore. Back to you, Deonte.
Right. And so basically at the end of episode 1, the government has a new Captain America, and this this guy that looks like a budget, great value Captain America, and we find
Yeah.
out in
We
episode
got
2.
we got Captain America at home. That's what that is.
I want some McDonald's, Captain America.
We got McDonald's at home. We got the Greek value off brand.
Yeah,
The
we
Hilltop
find out
off
later in
brand.
episode 2 that his name is John Walker, and so that dives in. That goes directly into episode 2 as far as introducing this guy, former captain of the football team, former
Yeah.
sergeant, whatever, captain in the military, U.S. Army. He has all these accolades. They give him the big Captain America rollout, as I put in my notes right
Mm-hmm.
here. And it's like, it's funny to me because it's like, I feel like they would do something like this in real life as far as,
Yeah.
man, how can we make this guy the most likable character? We'll put him on Good Morning America and we'll give him a HBCU band. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying?
It's funny as hell because it's Marvel / Disney's way of mocking how these entities do. They try to pander to black people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's get them in a Sprite commercial and throw some hip hop in the background.
Yeah.
That'll get them. And
I
it's
swear.
it's the same thing they did. They gave him a black partner. They had an HBCU marching band coming through there, and it's like, come on, y'all. But they played it perfectly. It set it up to where you hate this guy's guts before you even know what he's about. They did that perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Like,
yeah, bro. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, man, they think they slick. I was like, aha.
That's just great writing. They knew what they was doing. They knew what they was doing. Oh man.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But in episode 2, they get a little deeper, gets a little, more into the realism as far as mirroring what is going on in the real world. We see. Go ahead, Dane.
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
interrupt you for 1 second. We ain't get to talk about this, but it pissed me off. And again, spoiler alert. My man went to go in episode 1. My man went with his sister to go try to get a business loan, small bank loan, and he was denied. And it immediately brought me back. I was like, wait a minute, we just watched the WandaVision. Well, this man is basically a mannequin with an Apple Watch for a heart. He got a whole plot of land for his, for his future wife and future family. And this man, he's like less than 3 or 4 years old, and he was able to do that, but we can't get the brother of a business loan to help get the boat off the ground. I was like, come on, bro. I mean, it kind of
those two together,
but it was
crazy.
Yeah. It was like, oh yeah. I was like, wait a minute now. This don't make no damn sense. Anyways, I don't know if anybody who's been through the house buying process. I mean, it's a headache and a half, but the hoops and the qualifications you got to get to even to get something. I don't know. Maybe Vision has the hookup somewhere at the Bank of America and they hooked them up with a spot. But I don't know. But it just was like, come on, man. The brother taking the L again. But it's just again, that's Marvel kind of highlighting not only just the plight of this guy being black, but just the idea of him being a veteran and the difficulties they face with even something as small as getting a small business loan. So again, I needed to touch on that before you went to the meat and potatoes of episode 2.
That's the perfect, perfect segue, my guy. Because in episode 2, they dive even more into the racial undertones of everything in the MCU and how it mirrors the real world. Bucky introduces Sam to Isaiah Bradley through the comics. We know, but for those that don't know, he was the first black Captain America after Steve had. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dane. After Steve went on ice, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
So we find out in the show, we don't know necessarily how he got put in jail, but he got put in jail for 30 years after serving as Captain America. So I'm sure we'll dive more into that. But we're kind of gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the racial undertones.
Maybe we get some flashbacks or something.
Flashbacks, maybe, but there's something that happened that put this man that was black Captain America per se into jail for 30 years, and then right after that,
and I think it was like in the comics. I think he either stole Cap's shield or he like impersonated Cap. I can't remember what it was, but it was. I should have looked this up. I didn't even think to look it up, but my bad. I apologize for poor research. But
You good, bro?
yeah, we about to see them hop into it, and of course, it gets into
Yeah,
the illegal experiments that are not only done on humans themselves, but specifically targeted with a lot of black people. A lot of black people in their
right.
skepticism and distrust with the healthcare
Yes,
system because of some testing, some unethical things that took place back in the day. But that kind of surfaced with
yeah,
what Isaiah said, which is kind of like, oh shit, they really going into this, like Disney, Marvel, they
right,
really throwing some slugs at the
right.
government right now, like some
Yeah,
real stuff.
and
So
then probably the most telling scene that mirrors what's going on in the world today after they come out
yeah,
of Isaiah Bradley's home. They're walking in
man,
the street, and the Baltimore police show up and basically ask Bucky if this guy is bothering you, talking about Sam.
yeah,
And Sam's like, "No, I don't have any ID on me. What I like, basically, mirroring how, you
yeah.
know,
The harassment,
way too
the harassment.
often blacks get harassed in America. So it's just a little taste of it, but it was real. It
Yeah,
hit close to
it's a,
home,
it's
So
subtle. It's small enough to you get the idea, or correction, it's big enough for you get the idea. Small enough to not take your whole attention off the plot of the entire episode. So it's like,
yeah,
damn, we just seen him witness the trauma that Isaiah had, and then him step outside, and bam.
right.
So
Hit with
it's
more.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just it's all sorts of messed
And
up.
a lot of
Like
people don't like when stuff in the real world combines with what they think is pleasure or leisure and stuff that they like
yeah,
to watch as far as this Dane. But for us,
not everybody had
seeing
nobody not everybody's fortunate enough to be able to escape from stuff like that. Some
right,
people have to.
how does that make you feel seeing the MCU dive into real world issues like this?
One, it made me it made me appreciate them trying to touch on that topic itself because it's a real thing. And then two, it kind of made me like, you know what? They're gonna catch a lot of heat for this. From one, from people who don't want to see that on the TV. It's like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I get pulled over by the police too, and I'm okay as long as you comply and blah 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 blah. You'll get that. And of course you'll get, excuse me, which you can't blame. You get a lot of people, a lot of black people who are, that have are triggered by that type of stuff, seeing that in their media when they don't want to, because it just brings up, just it's that's an open wound that won't be closed for a long time for a lot of us. So that being a trigger for a lot of people, I can see how that could go wrong and rub a lot of people the wrong way. But I think it was subtle enough to be like, you know what, we're aware of what's going on, and we want to dive into this as an issue, some shape or form to start a dialogue. So shout out to them.
Right. And I mean, people that don't want to see it, they're going to be even more upset because there's more projects down the
Yeah,
line where you're going to have gay characters, bisexual characters. And I mean,
yeah.
if you don't like it, you just don't watch it. You know what I'm saying? So
Keep
I
it
really
moving.
enjoyed this episode. Keep it pushing, man.
Yeah.
One thing I did note, Dane, and tell me if I'm diving into this too much.
What's that?
When we find out that Sam, not Sam, Bucky
Mm-hmm.
knew a previous black Captain America and they fought. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think that's why he was okay with Sam getting the shield from
Mm-hmm.
Steve? He does that little head nod at the end in Endgame where he's like when Steve pops up from time travel, he does his little head nod.
Look,
Like,
him and
he,
Sam look at each other
yeah,
like,
he tells him to go ahead. I was
yeah.
like, oh, like that
I
brought me
think
back to that moment.
I think you touched on a good thing because we're seeing that 50 years ago or 60 years ago, when Isaiah was deemed, Captain America to take up the mantle, America wasn't ready. And then we're seeing now in the present where Sam thinks America isn't ready, so I'm not going to do it. But Bucky's like, no, it's time. Like, I am, 100 and what, 110, right? 100, no.
Eight, something like
Oh,
that.
he's old. He's
Yeah,
old. I've been around here long enough to know that it's time. This needs to happen like as an ally. This needs to happen, and not only that, but he's reassuring. He said this: if you turn down this opportunity to not only wield a symbol of what's supposed to be, hope and freedom and justice, if you turn down this symbol, then that means Steve was wrong about selecting you. And of course, he said if he was wrong about you, then he's definitely wrong about me because you're
right.
is innocent as they come, and me, I'm guilty as charged. So
And
he wrong
I've
about
done
you.
all
He's
these
definitely
terrible
wrong.
things in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Even though it wasn't his fault, he's completely brainwashed, but he still carries that guilt, that burden. So
right.
I think that's his way of saying, like, of seeing more in Sam than Sam sees in himself, or Sam is willing to accept. Which I understand. You know, he has to go through a period of acceptance and or these stages of I guess denial that
Yeah.
he is supposed to be the new Cap, but I guess it just comes with those expectations and knowing that society probably won't accept him the way that they accepted Steve, which is normal for anybody in that circumstance to try to go through those different stages of grief. Well, not grief, but stages of, I don't know what you want to call it. Somebody's got the right phrase or word for it, but I can't figure out the right vernacular, if you will, to say to match that particular phrase. The right
Right. Just
jargon,
getting
if you will.
past,
Yeah.
I would say, like, getting past certain situations and stuff like that. But man, episode 1 and 2 definitely hit close, and I'm sure they're gonna dive more into that. We got Zemo coming into
Yeah.
the fray next episode, so it's gonna get even more legit,
How they
more
gonna
fire
pull that
coming
off?
from Marvel. I
How
don't
they
know,
gonna get in
man.
there? How they gonna do that?
I don't know.
Like,
Maybe they can get government clearance. Well, they're not working for the government. I don't know.
right.
I don't know.
Somebody's gonna. I think we might get a special guest appearance this next episode because somebody's gonna have to come through with some major pull because they not finna break into one of the highest supermax prisons
Yeah.
in the MCU to spring this dude free. But we know that he's gonna be
So
free
who do you
because
think
of
it's
the
gonna be?
trailer. It'd have to be somebody that's up there. I don't want to
Ross?
say maybe
General
Ross
Ross?
or well, no, he's supposed to be dead. So I was gonna say
That's the only government guy that they've introduced. Maybe it might be a new
I was gonna
character. Who
say
knows?
Fury. I was gonna say Fury, but Fury is supposed to be dead to the world, so that's not gonna work unless it's some sort of scroll or something like
No.
maybe a scroll.
Could be.
So I don't know. Could be Ross. I don't know, but that would be interesting because Ross was trying to scold him at the beginning of Infinity War when they escaped from getting killed out there in the train station.
Yep.
And when they came back, he was like, Roddy, arrest those fugitives. Right? I don't know. Might be some hard feelings there. I don't know.
We'll definitely see coming up in episode 3